So this is access modifiers in Java. So there are four access modifier in Java. The first one is public. So public, it can be acceptable for all classes. So public here is accessible for all classes. So this is how public access modifier works in Java. So here I created two parent class. Two class but in the same package. The first one is the access modifier class and the second one is the public class. So they are from the same package. So I'm gonna create a variable here and try to access it in another class. So let's just put public int num equals 10 and then public int num1 equals 20. After we declared a public variable, we're going to access it here in the access modifier class. So first we're going to create an object for the public class. Public, 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 just pub. And then equals to new, equals to new public, public. And then semicolon. After we created an object for the public class, we're going to call the variable inside the public class here in access modifier class. Int num equals pub dot num. So as you can see, we are able to access. Let's just access the other one. Num1 equals pub dot num1. So you can see, we are able to access the public variable in the public class into the access modifier class. It is because public is accessible to all classes. So if we created another class but different package, we are not able to access the public variable. It is because public is only accessible in the same package. So that's how public. While private is the code is only accessible within the declaration class. So private is only accessible inside the class where you declared it. You cannot access it on another class because it is only accessible in the class where you declared it. So this is how private access modifier works in Java. So here I created two classes. The first one is the access modifier class and the second one is the private class. In private class, we're going to declare a private variable and we're going to access it into another class which is here in the access modifier class. So let's just create a variable private int num equals 10 and then private int num1 equals 20. So after we created, let's try to call this private variable if we can call it, and here in the access modifier class. So first we're going to create a object for a private class. We're going to create this class. We're going to create an object for that. Let's just put private, 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 and then and then equals new private, and then semicolon. So after we created an object, we're going to call it. Let's just put int num equals to pre dot num. So as you can see, we cannot access it. Num has private access and private. So we cannot access this private variable into another class here in the access modifier. It is because it is private. Even though they have the same package, since it is private, you cannot access it into other classes. So it can only access in the class where you declared it, which is here in private. So you can see we cannot access because num has private access and private class. So that's how private works. The next one is default. The code default is the code is only accessible in the same package. This is used when you don't specify a modifier. So default is accessible within the same package. You cannot access default if that is in another package. You can only access it in the same package. So this is how default work in Java. As you can see, I have created two class here. The first one is access modifier. The second one is the default. So here in default, we're going to declare a variable and num equals 10. And then semicolon. Then int num equals 20. After we declared int num 1 equals 20. After we declare the variable, we're going to access the variable in the default class into access modifier class. First, we're going to create a default object. First, we're going to create an object for the default class. Let's just type default, then default div lang, and then equals new default So after we created an object for the default class, we're going to call the variable in the default class. First, we're going to declare int num equals equals div and then that num semicolon. So as you can see, we can access the variable here in the default class into another class, which is in the access modifier class. We're able to access it because they have the same package. The last one is the protected. The code is accessible in the same package and subclasses. So protected is accessible in the same package again and subclasses. So that's all the access modifier in Java. So how protected access modifier works in Java. So here I created two class. The first one is access modifier class and the second one is the protected class. So here in the protected class, we are going to declare a protected variable, and then we're going to access the protected variable into another class. Num1 equals 20. So after we declared a protected variable, we're going to access it into another class, which is here in the access modifier class. So first here we're going to create a object for the protected class. Protected, then pro equals to new protected, and then so after we create an object, let's just call the protected variable in the protected class to access modifier class. So int num equals pro dot num. So we are able to access the protected variable in the protected class. It is because it is accessible in any class but in the same package. But if we create another package and try to access the protected variable, we cannot able to access it. It is because protected